Hello, everyone. I'm Diane Grissel. I'm also known as Silver Disobedience, and this is the Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics podcast. And we're recording in iconic Manhattan Center, which is really cool. I love the studio. We're in TV2, so this is a lot of fun. I have got a really fascinating guest. He's one of the most knowledgeable people that I have ever met about health and nutrition and longevity and just plain looking good, which you're going to see when you see him. His name's Dr. Fred Pescatore. Full disclosure, he's been my personal physician for years and has really helped me over the years with losing weight after children, staying healthy, staying strong. And we're going to be talking about the myths that proliferate all over online. And we're just going to have this free-for-all conversation, which should be a lot of fun. Oh, and I also want to mention, he's the author of many, many books that you will want to read. They cover a wide range from dieting to asthma to how to feed your children to keep them healthy, a really great selection to consider. And don't be surprised after you see him here today if you find him in a newspaper or magazine, because he is the celebrity go-to commentator. Hello, Dr. Fred Pescatore.
Hello, Diane. Thank you so much for having me. And I don't know if I could live up to that introduction, but we shall soon see.
Oh, I have no doubt you can. And you do. So let's just start with the fact that whether you go on any form of social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, there is always some new diet trend that somebody's touting. What is the first advice right off the top of your head that you would say to someone when they say, I saw this new thing on Instagram that I want to try?
I would say stop following Instagram. No, there are a lot of credible people on Instagram. I'm not going to, or TikTok, social media. Let's just call it that, right? There's plenty of credible people. I've even been known to do things on there. So there are credible people on there.
You offer great cooking tips too.
My cooking show. It's silly, but fun. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I would have had a different answer last week than I have this week about this question, because I just wrote an article for my newsletter about this study that just came out comparing 8 different diets, whether it's Mediterranean, the DASH diet that the American Medical Association touts, just all sorts of 8 different diets. And they were looking at terms of, does it affect longevity?
Oh.
And the people, no matter what diet you looked at, the people who followed a diet lived the longest.
That is fascinating. So it's just plain the idea of sticking to something.
That is all
because your
generally
body
healthy,
gets
right?
used to it?
No, I think because these diets are generally healthy. I mean, they're certainly – because no diet is going to tell you to eat a ton of sugar. No diet's going to tell you to eat fast food. None of those diets are going to tell you to eat those types of things that cause chronic illness. So I think if people – and I've said this forever – is that people need to do things consistently. And when people do things consistently, you can see results. And I think this study just proves it. And I, of course, have my own diet that I follow and that I do and that I recommend to others, as you know. But I have always thought, and I say this to people all the time, is that there's billions of people on the planet. We can't all follow the same diet. We're not genetically made up like that. We all live in different environments because we are part of our environments as well as to what we eat. So I think that so the answer to that question is choose a diet, choose a lane and stay in it.
How does somebody go about finding that lane that fits them?
Well, yeah, I think the biggest obstacle, and I've been doing weight loss for over 30 years and diet and nutrition advice for over 30 years. The biggest obstacle is I can't do that. The I can't. I can't give up X. I can't live without Y. I can't do this. Well, you can. You just can. I mean, it's that simple. We live in very fortunate places, a lot of us, and food supply. Well, as awful as our food supply is, food is certainly plentiful for every budget, and I think that you've got to be willing to just explore and say, well, this looks interesting. That looks interesting. Not, oh, this looks interesting today. I'll do it for 2 weeks. Then I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. So then anything goes. And oh, then my birthday's in another 2 weeks. And then I'll go back on it. So it's really just say, I think I try to tell people, it's like if you have a goal, graduating school was a goal for many of us, whether it's grade school, high school, college, and all the other schools I've been to. But if you have that goal, you'll do everything to get to that goal. We don't think about that with our health. Everybody says, I want to be healthy. I want to live a long life. I want to look like you. All of those things, well, it takes a lot of work. And it takes just, because if you have a goal that's here, I don't know if so if you have a goal that's here and you want to go this way to get to it, that's a lot of work. Right? If you can just go in a straight line, you'll get to that goal. And I think that's the hardest thing for people to acknowledge. I had a patient today, young boy, 14 years old, 15 years old, something like that. He's been on my diet now for 2 weeks. He's been feeling the best he's ever felt in his life, like was on ADD medication, like all the usual medications that kids are on these days, ADD medication, anxiety medications, stomach medications, because they're taking all those medications that cause stomach issues. On just a little bit of ADD medication now, has never felt better. What did they say? The first thing they said, when can I go off this diet?
Even though it's making him feel so good.
Exactly.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that was the very first question. When can I go off this diet?
And that's probably something you face a lot. You see people thinking in terms of a diet as a temporary fix instead of a long-term commitment.
Well, because that's how we have so long thought about the word diet. I'm going on a diet. A diet is just a nutritional program that you follow. It's all a diet is. Some may be low carb, some may be vegan, some may be vegetarian. Those are just dietary patterns that we follow. So it is the diet we're on, but it's not I'm going on a diet. I'm going on a nutritional program. That's how I eat, right? And I think that's how people have to start thinking about it, educating themselves about it. And it's not I'm doing this for X to achieve Y. No, Y is to live the longest, healthiest life you could possibly live. And to get that way, you've got to diet, you've got to exercise, you've got to sleep, you've got to move your bowels, you've got to do all those fun things.
You're reminding me of what my mother used to say, which was, if I had only known how long I'd live, I'd have treated myself better. And my mother lived to 92 and could have run circles around us all till pretty much the day she died. But she would still just kind of throw that, someday you're going to realize if you treated yourself better,
you would feel better.
Yeah.
And I think, your mother's generation, my grandmother who also lived to be 97, they didn't live in the toxic world we live in. So it was easier for them to be that way a lot. Yes, all of them didn't live that long. There was a much shorter life expectancy. But I think if you took men out of that equation, who always have shorter life expectancies and really focused on women's life expectancies of that generation, I'd wonder what the life expectancy really was, because we all know so many older women that have lived to their 90s and do beautifully.
That is so interesting, because when you think of the generation of our parents, you had World War II and the Korean War, which I can't even imagine how those factors, if you got out of service, how they still impacted your longevity in one way or another.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating to me. It's I've been doing a lot of writing about, it's not all about the number that you live to. It's about how healthy you are.
Right.
Getting to that number. And there's another interesting statistic that came out. You're considered a healthy person if you can get to age 70 without having any major disease. Then you've sort of won the lottery. If you
what
can
do you
get to
think
70.
about that as a statistic? Do you agree with it? Do you?
I think it's, there are, and the study just does go on to say, between 70 and, they will statistically live to be 90. They will statistically live to be a healthier 90 and a healthier 85 or a healthier 95. So, there's something to be said for not having chronic disease, whether it be diabetes, hypertension, overweight, obesity, even, arthritis and things like that. I think it's sad to me that all of these chronic illnesses that we face are things we do to ourselves.
Oh, let's talk about that because I agree with you. I've worked, my heart is in really nutritional medicine. Like what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. And yet I've lived for so many years in the world of biotechnology, which I think medicines are important. There's a time and a place for everything.
Of course.
Yet at the same time, it's, oh, we're going to fix it instead, and chronic diseases, I want to say to people all the time, if only you would just tweak X, Y, or Z. But that gets such resistance. I can't imagine your day and the resistance you face.
It's all day. All day, every day is resistance.
Yeah.
All day, every day. I tell people, they ask me what to do. I tell them, and it's a negotiation.
Right.
I had someone today say to me, well, what if I wanted to go to McDonald's? What should I get? I said, water. I said, that's it. And I said, if it's in a plastic bottle, don't even get water.
Right.
Like, walk away. I said, I'm never going to condone what you get in McDonald's because I will never condone fast food. I said, but if you want to do it, you're free to do whatever you like so far.
And the irony that you must face is that you probably have people trying to negotiate with you as to what they can have and not getting the full concept that basically you're somehow subtracting from yourself each time they try to negotiate with you.
Of course.
I mean, I'm not sure what that equation is, but there's some equation.
Of course. You're not harming my health by going to McDonald's. Like, you're harming, well, I shouldn't say that, but you're harming your health when you eat fast food, processed food, ultra-processed foods. I mean, I'm so happy now all of that's coming to light and in the news. We've been talking about ultra-processed foods for my entire career I've been talking about ultra-processed foods. Plastic. I haven't used plastic in a decade at least.
You were also the person I first learned about the differences in the oils.
Yes.
I remember you talking about olive oil, macadamia nut oil, different oils versus the traditional seed oils.
Right. And it's all of these things play a role in our health. And I'm not here to say you have to be perfect, right? We're not perfect people. None of us are. But if you have a concept, let's say you do something 90% right, especially when it comes to dieting, what a difference.
Yeah.
What a difference it's going to make in how you feel, how you act towards others, how you present yourself to the world, how you feel when you wake up in the morning. It's just remarkable to me when people do those negotiations and it's really not for their own good.
If someone was to say to you, what's the first number one thing I can do? I'm not ready to change my life. I just want to feel better. What would you tell them?
Probably to exercise. I think I would do that. I mean, what I would want to say is just cut out sugar and processed foods, right? That's the best thing you can do for anyone. But what we're looking for really is to try to decrease inflammation in our bodies. And we're understanding more and more how inflammation, things like Alzheimer's disease, neuroinflammation, shocking. Things like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, a lot of the diseases we fear, they're all inflammatory related. Heart disease is inflammatory related. Cancer probably has an inflammatory basis as well. So why are we not addressing the real causes of inflammation, right?
Yeah.
And that's the stressors we personally do to ourselves. I mean, yes, we all live with stress. There's nothing we can do about that. But why would we feed that? Why would we make it worse? I think that's really, the bottom line is what goes on in my mind. Like, you're drinking soda? Really?
Well, that's one, I mean.
So maybe give up soda. Maybe that's something simple. They only have to be simple steps. Give up X. How about stop chewing gum?
Oh,
with all the
let's talk about
microplastics.
that because I do love to chew gum.
Oh, the microplastics. In
Really?
the first
In
20 minutes,
gum?
it gives up something like 683 on average microplastics.
A piece of gum? Every kind of gum?
Every
This is
kind
really
of gum,
bumming my head
whether
right
it's
now.
natural gum or whether it's unnatural gum, whatever you call it.
No.
Yes, I just wrote an article about that. It's crazy how much microplastic is released in gum.
I have never heard that, and I really didn't want to hear that. Oh,
Don't
wow.
negotiate with me.
I can't exactly. That's my problem in life. Once I hear something, I can't put the genie back in the bottle. So now that's going to be bothering me, or I'll be living with, cognitive dissonance, and like that conflict, that self-conflict of, oh, I can't put that gum in my mouth. Wow.
Yeah.
Microplastics in gum.
Yeah. Well, gum's made out of petroleum and it's made out of plastic, a lot of it.
What about that? What about that gum that tastes like it's right from the tree? No,
They tested
that
natural
either.
gums and they tested artificial gums.
There's no way I'm getting around gum here.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope. Nope.
Okay. I might not ever invite you back. Wow.
Okay, we can talk about
every
lessons.
time I meet with you, you open up my mind to something new. And like, you can't change it. To me, once I know it, I can't go back on it. And, here F1 has become such a popular show. And it's like, oh, is McLaren beating Ferrari? And when you think about it, I always think in terms of the human body and what we put into it. And as great as those cars are, in a split second, the human body's doing more than that F1 car is doing in, its lap or whatever.
Absolutely. We're an incredibly complicated machine. I was just in Ferrari world, actually,
You were?
last week.
Fun.
But yeah, that was super fun. But anyway, that's off topic. But
Ferraris are never off topic. They are a fine machine, but they're not as fine as the human body we're talking about.
no, and if you think about what the human body actually does, right? How we have managed to, we don't feed it correctly. So we're giving a Ferrari unleaded gasoline, right?
Yeah.
We breathe in things that are terrible for us. We're just, we don't sleep enough.
Mm-hmm.
Our digestion's really bad. So if you think about what we do to ourselves, and our life expectancy still goes up every year. So it's amazing how our bodies, and along with medical techniques to keep people alive and whatever. But it's amazing that our bodies are able to cope with all the change that has only occurred in the last 100 years.
Right.
Like we were basically the same up until 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The way we ate, we didn't have the air pollution, we had the water pollution, we didn't have any of that stuff up until about 100 years ago, and everything changed, including our awful food supply.
Mm. When you see the biohackers and the trend in biohacking, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, I'm very interested in it, obviously. I think there's certainly something to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know yet,
Mm-hmm.
right? And only time will tell. But, there's an article that came out recently about symbiotic cells and how cells die and those types of things. And I think that's what people are trying to do, is to prevent cells from dying.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have biohacking on a grand scale, there's ethical concerns clearly about that, because, maybe we want older people to pass and younger people with different ideas to move into those spaces and give the world a chance to grow in a different way. But that's an ethical conversation. But from a simply medical conversation, I think it's fascinating. The fact that we can look at things like metformin, which is an anti blood sugar, a blood sugar drug that increases longevity in mice. I'm sure it probably increases longevity in humans. But why? Because it keeps blood sugar low.
Right.
Because sugar is one of the key inflammatory ingredients in our body.
Oh, that food nobody wants to acknowledge as a problem.
Absolutely. I think it should have a big warning label, and it should be hashtag sugar kills on every ingredient and everything that has sugar in it. But
It's interesting you say that. I remember, oh my gosh, it has to be almost 40 years ago, reading, I think it was written by Herbert Shelton possibly. And, so we're going really back in writing. What was he writing in the late 1800s, early 1900s? And he was comparing sugar to a crystalline substance that's sold for thousands of dollars. And, you're reading this whole thing, but you think you're reading about the heroin trade,
Right.
or something like that, because he's talking about how it got smuggled across borders and the price it went for per pound when it was first out. And then all of a sudden he says, yeah, and we're talking about sugar.
Exactly. Sugar used to be expensive.
Yeah.
Sugar was a treat. Very special occasions. People couldn't afford sugar.
And the addictive nature of it was acknowledged at some point.
Yes.
What
Acknowledged,
happened
but nothing
and
done
went
about
there?
it.
Exactly. So what do you think went into that history where it kind of got ignored? Is it just plain manufacturing? And
I think it's manufacturing. I think it's got to do with big pharma, probably, because they don't have no interest in keeping us healthy.
I
They only have
agree with
interest in
that.
keeping us unhealthy.
Yeah.
They sell more product that way. I mean, now with with the weight loss drugs, they're making more money than they know what to do with, which I think is, a blessing and maybe a curse. I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet.
Yeah.
I'm still working on that. But I do think, people don't realize that sugar is not supposed to be plentiful and it's not supposed to be in everything.
Well, it's interesting. I have to go to the weight loss drugs because because you brought it up. You opened the door and we discussed the operating systems of society here. And I know people who I can absolutely say that I would probably have to say I think it's changed their lives because of how they're viewing themselves. I mean, if you're carrying 100 pounds or more and in a short period of time, you can get that off. And I am a big believer with what you look like helps how you feel, how you
100%.
function, how people perceive you, whether you want to accept that or not. To me, you're ignoring certain social biology if you ignore that people aren't attracted to a certain look. Whatever that look is, people get attracted to certain looks. So to lose all that weight, I think that's fantastic. But I really wonder about what is coming after it. What are going to be the side effects that start to rise from these drugs, which are really the effects of them. And that really concerns me. You've seen how a lot of the weight that's lost is, you'd know the percentages. It's close to 40% of the weight lost is muscle mass.
But see, here's the misconception about that.
Okay, I want to
right?
hear it from
Here's
you.
the
You're the
misconception
doctor.
about that is you have to realize, let's think about a piece of steak.
Yep.
Like, let's think of a nice ribeye, all that delicious marbling and all of that.
Yeah.
That's fat in the muscle.
Mm-hmm.
When you take the fat out of the muscle shrinks. It's not the
that's
muscle
an
shrinking.
interesting
It's the
point.
fat in the muscle shrinking.
Okay,
So-
I can't argue that one.
No.
That's an interesting point.
And a lot of people who are not, and by people I mean practitioners or silly people that sell this stuff online, and which
That online stuff's insane.
ridiculous. But the point is, you've got to be able to tell your patients because, as you probably know, I have many, many, many patients
Yeah.
on these things and have for years.
Mhm.
They never get the saggy face. They never get the droopy skin. They never get any of that because you also have to tell people, you got to exercise. You've got to lift weights while you're doing it. You've got to increase your protein content. All of those things that will keep that muscle.
This is why
way
you
you
are
want it.
essential to it's serious. I'm really serious because, first of all, I do know people who are getting this online, which is insane. I interviewed a DEA agent not too long ago who was telling me about how 2 grains of sugar, if it was fentanyl, could kill you, and how much is getting into the drug supply that people are just, because there's no manufacturing controls,
Right.
and the fentanyl could be made in the same place the fake Ozempic or Wegovy are getting made.
Okay.
So he was saying, stop ordering it online. That's number one. But the other thing that's so interesting about what you say is a lot of these people are getting it from a doctor and not really under medical care, nutritional
Right.
health care.
They're not.
They're not getting that doctor like you, who I know would
Yes.
make sure that person's paying attention, because you would give them the information to not have your one meal a day be brownies because you're now all over the place and you're like, I didn't eat all day, so I can eat this tray of brownies.
Exactly. Exactly. But that doesn't decrease the inflammation in your body now, does it?
Right.
Right? So it might decrease the weight, but it doesn't. Now, look, I think these drugs have the potential to change the world, right? Because they can decrease inflammation. They can, which means I get people off of blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications, all diabetes all except for this one drug. So
It's a big shift.
So while they may have been on 10 different drugs, they could be on one drug.
That's phenomenal right there in itself.
So
I got to
that's
concede
phenomenal.
because you don't have the potential interactions because none of these drugs, a blood pressure drug is never tested with, what a cholesterol lowering medication in the same trial. It's extremely rare.
Right, right. So I just think it's so. I mean, these drugs now may or may not help Alzheimer's, probably because of neuroinflammation. They may or may not. I mean, they do help kidney function, which will make your blood pressure go away, which will decrease cardiovascular events, which will decrease stroke risk. All of these things. I think it's pretty remarkable if we don't see some awful thing happening 10 years from now.
Right.
But I would think, and if you think in science, purely scientific terms, the way you figure out whether a drug is going to work is by how many, it's called powering. So I need 10,000 people to prove that. That's called powering. Or I need 5,000. That would be the power. So we have millions of people on these drugs now for at least a couple of years. Millions.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we have seen something by now?
Well, the biggest thing we're seeing, which is very interesting, is I saw a couple of food manufacturing companies. I was listening to the quarterly announcements by them and reading some of the quarterly reports, and snack foods are way down in consumption. Less people are buying them.
Good.
The cereal-based foods have gone down in the snack kind of things have gone down. And I have heard more than one CEO say, we call it the Ozempic effect or the Wegovy effect.
Absolutely. I mean, it's changing the way people eat, which is not a bad thing at all. And I also don't believe that we need to worry whether someone has to stay on it for the rest of their lives.
You just read my mind. I was going to ask you that. Are these lifetime medications?
For a lot of my patients, no. Because again, they're working with me. I'm counseling them. They know, let's say they've been on it for a year. They know instead of taking it every week, they'll take it every 8 days, every 9 days, every 10 days. They'll take it before they go on vacation. They'll take it when they get back from a vacation. Just things like that. So they'll microdose it. Because the one thing people love about these medications is the food noise going away. They're not thinking about eating. They're not worried what they're putting in their mouth. It's not that constant, what am I eating? What am I going to eat next? Who am I going to eat with? All of that food noise that people have around food behaviors.
Why does that happen?
Why does it go away?
Yeah.
We don't know. That's why they're studying these drugs for medical conditions. I mean, for mental health conditions as well. But it just quiet. It also and this is strictly from patient population, people want to drink less as well. So drink alcohol less. So they're looking at, for alcohol use disorder, they're doing studies on alcohol use disorder for this. So it just decreases the desire to put things in your mouth.
That's quite a phenomenon.
And we don't know why yet. But someone will figure it out. I mean, if there's money in it, someone will figure it out.
Now, when you have someone come in and you're talking with them about their diet, we said, okay, let's try to eliminate X, Y, or Z. What would you try to get them to maximize?
Maximize?
In addition to what they're eliminating,
Sure.
Maybe they're cutting out the soda. What should they maximize?
I mean, I think people need to maximize
Besides exercise,
Yeah, of
as
course.
we were just talking about.
No. I think they need to maximize lean protein sources, whether that be. Okay, there's levels here, right? So if we're going to start at the very basic level, the basic level would be eat leaner proteins, more fish, more poultry, that sort of thing, less red meat, increase vegetables. I mean, even today I had someone say, well, I want to go to the Ponderosa. I'm like, I didn't even know they still existed, but yeah, I want to go to the Ponderosa. And I'll get my steak and my baked potato. And then he looks at me, he's like, oh, maybe not the baked potato. I'll have 2 vegetables instead. I'm like, there you go. You'll have 2 vegetables instead of a potato. So I think, so it's increasing your vegetable content, good healthy oils like nuts. You know, people forget about nuts. They think they shouldn't have them because they were so fattening. They're not fattening. They're part of a healthy diet. So that's where, so if they had to lose weight, that is where I would start first. Absolutely, 100%. If they didn't need to lose weight, you'd add in the legumes. You'd add in, you know, healthy legumes, lower sugar fruits like berries and melons and things like that. So just to have a more balanced, more colorful diet.
Let's talk about steak.
Okay, let's go back to that.
Yeah. Red meat. What are your thoughts on that?
I love red meat. I eat it all the time. But my red meat is not only grass fed, it's grass finished. So I know exactly where my cows are coming from. I know the farmer who's farming them. I know that they're moved from pasture to pasture. They're not like stuck in a pen somewhere. And they're grass finished. And that's the most important thing, because grass-fed is one thing, and everybody's big on the grass-fed bandwagon because somehow that message has gone through. But what people don't understand is grass-fed means up until the last month of that animal's life, it has to be grass-fed. The last month, you could feed it anything you want to fatten it up before slaughter.
That's very interesting. And I want to talk about eggs because you have written a lot about eggs. You have taught me a lot about eggs. Let's talk about eggs and the kind of eggs people should look for and why there's a difference.
Well, there's a very big difference I mean, we're one of the only countries probably in the world that has those white, bleached, awful things, right? They're just disgusting. The reason why we have a bigger problem with bird flu and having to kill so many chickens is because of the way we raise chickens, stuffing them in a room. And on this table, there'd probably be 100,000 chickens.
Yeah.
Maybe 50,000. I don't know, but a lot.
Yeah,
a lot more than there ought to be.
I mean, if you see any of those videos, it's like a guaranteed way to become a vegetarian.
Exactly. But I think eggs, so an egg that has come from a hen like that has 16 times more inflammatory omega-6s than omega-3s. An egg from a chicken, from a hen, that has gone out and eaten earthworms, roamed around the yard, went back home to roost, like the whole thing. That egg is 1-to-1, which is the way Mother Nature intended it. So inflammatory and anti-inflammatory, 1-to-1. Not 16 times more inflammatory than anti-inflammatory. So it really is important how our food gets to our table, how it gets to our table, but also how the animals are treated before any of their product. Because whatever bad stuff the animals are doing gets into us if we're eating it. From hormones in the milks to all sorts of antibiotics in the food supply, because of the living conditions, they have to give them so many antibiotics and all sorts of different things. So it's, as we mentioned about our toxic food supply, that's part of the reason why I call it so toxic. It's not like they're out to poison us. It's just they are poisoning us slowly over time. There's a reason why 1 in 38 children are now on the spectrum.
Oh,
1 in
can
38.
we go into that?
That
Because
just
you
came
have
out.
written books about kids and nutrition.
Yes.
Let's get into that.
When I was in medical school, it was like 1 in 10,000 kids
Yeah.
were on the spectrum. Then when I started writing about children 30 years ago, it was one in 100. Now it's 1 in 38.
That's just, I mean, I got goosebumps all over.
And
when
that's
you
just in a
said that.
generation. That's in one generation. It went from 1 in 100 to 1 in 38. Yes, we know about it. We diagnose it more. And maybe we even push to diagnose it in schools so that schools can get extra money and all of that stuff, and extra time and blah, blah, blah. So there is a little bit of that, but it can't go from 1 in 10,000
Yeah, that's a huge
to
jump.
1 in 38.
Yeah.
That's not just, the way we're looking at it. That's a big difference. Something is going on. What do you think that something is, right? Those children are exposed to chemicals from the minute they're conceived.
Right.
From the moment they're conceived. What was it? I can't remember the exact statistics, so I'll give it roughly. 2 generations ago, cord blood had no chemicals in it. This new generation, and probably the generation, I think this is the generation before them, not Gen A, not Alpha, but Z, I guess.
Yeah.
Average number of chemicals in cord blood is over 600.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So there's a lot of chemicals that we're inadvertently exposed to, like touching this table, chemicals, because it was cleaned. What it's cleaned with is a chemical. So I'm not saying we have to live our lives in a bubble because we can't. I just want people to be aware of it, right? Maybe not choose your water from a plastic bottle.
Right.
Choose it in a glass bottle. Might be heavier to carry around, but it's certainly better for your health. And it'll build your bone strength. Carrying the
Find
water
that
bottles
exercise
around.
all over the place.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. When you hear about all the kids, and the rise in attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, you've got the nutritional component. How much do you think is social impact on the kids with technology, with the lack of running around these days, or the overscheduled schedules that so many kids are under?
It's all of it, right? Is it not all of it? I mean, so again, we have a human body that's very resilient. We know that. We've talked about that before. But we're now putting these generations into a mix that has never occurred before in history.
Yeah.
That overscheduled mix, that everybody knows what they're doing at every step of them, at every moment in their lives because they want to. Remember when we were kids and we wanted to find the coolest club or the coolest thing to go to? We had to find it. And then we wouldn't tell people because we didn't want them to find it.
Exactly.
Now it's like they just go on Instagram and TikTok and just let's go to this and let's go to that and let's do this. They do everything in mass.
Yeah.
Which is a different phenomenon for me. I'm not used to it at all. I like things being kept, sort of
A little more private.
a little more private.
Yeah, a lot more private.
But I think they're under pressures we'll never understand. And they come from a not so healthy place.
Yeah.
So, neuroinflammation, right? And that's
I wonder about their neuroinflammation just from the stress of looking at themselves constantly in pictures. I mean, our kids will say to us, or particularly me, they'll say, "Mom, how come you don't have any pictures, from high school?" I'm like, "Because Betty Reese didn't bring her 110 Instamatic camera to that event."
Exactly.
I mean, it cost a lot of money to, buy the film. That was
Flash
your whole
cubes.
week of babysitting
Flash
money.
cubes.
Yes, yes.
They were so expensive.
Yeah. And even when they became the 35 millimeter disposable, it cost a lot of money to get that film developed.
Exactly.
And you made sure you got the picture as best as possible. And odds are you still cut off everyone's head.
Exactly.
Now kids are constantly looking at themselves. They're looking at every angle of their face. Ironically, Josh, who's the chief engineer here at Manhattan Center, said to me today, the same thing my brother said to me yesterday. We never thought about whether we're filming on your preferred side or not. I'm like, my preferred side? I mean, I take a lot of pictures, but I never really think about my preferred side. It's just my face.
The kids do.
They do.
They know what their preferred side is. They know what the lighting they're supposed to have is.
Can you imagine the stress of that starting at a young age?
I know.
When I see a 8-year-old posing, my heart breaks.
I know. It's a real tragedy, but it's unfortunate that they're living through that. But maybe that's what they know, and it's going to be okay. That's the only thing I can think is that it'll be okay because they will learn how to move through this and navigate it, and they will.
That's the one thing about humanity. We keep
True.
moving forward.
I mean, they
we
blame
adapt.
us for a lot of problems, and I get it. I get it. We did just poison the world in a lot of different ways and put money ahead of everything. And we live in that culture. And I think a lot of them are trying to fight against that or at least be more socially conscious about things and be more sustainable, et cetera, all the new buzzwords about that. And I think kids are really trying to correct some of the things our generation has done. But they will navigate it. And I think it's just our generation is still clinging to the power of big pharma and the power of big food and the power of big manufacturers. And, until we figure out how to get their power away and not make it about them, but make it about humans, we're not doomed, but it's a battle.
Yeah. It's interesting now with the new administration and the possibilities that we might see a shift. It's going to be interesting to watch, how the new shifts might happen in the food supply, in what, gets approved with the FDA. Will things come to market faster? Should they come to market faster? Should people have access to clinical trials like we saw with Duchenne's? The boys that weren't allowed to get into that trial and weren't allowed to continue it because it hadn't been FDA approved. That moral and ethical aspect of,
There's a lot,
geez,
right?
it was helping those boys. Why the hell couldn't they have stayed on it? It was experimental all along. But no, the trial had to come to the end. It was...
But that's science.
Yes.
That is science. And that has to occur.
Agreed.
That doesn't mean, the doctors like myself have worked around that for my entire career. I've worked around the system. Yeah. But you can't break the system because you won't get the real answer.
I do agree.
So
and that's to me one of the most disturbing things we've seen. What has become science hasn't been debated the way we need it debated.
Science needs, we have to debate science.
Yeah.
We can't just take, dogma. And the science to me has usually often been there. It's the other stuff, like the myths that we talk about, right? That, this is good for you. Instagram says this is good for you, then I'm going to be doing it all. Right. That's the stuff that we live our lives in. We don't really live our lives in the science. We live our lives in the pseudoscience. And that's the part that worries me. The other part that worries me is that there are so many billionaires running the show right now. How are they going to continue to make their billions without pharma and without food manufacturing, without this, without us being sick, without all of that? See, I don't know where any of this goes.
It's a good question.
From here.
It's a really good question.
But, I like things are being questioned. It's just, I'm afraid they're just being, what I'm personally afraid of is that they're being surfacely questioned and dismissed offhandedly.
Yes.
Like there are 2 long-term trials being done right now at Columbia that are serious risk for being defunded at the moment. And they're ongoing trials that have been going on for 7 years and their endpoint is 10 years. And without these long-term trials, we don't really know what really happens, right?
Right.
The nurses' health study,
which
that has been going, that has
years.
taught us so
Yes.
much stuff.
Yeah.
What if that were just cut off and the funding would just disappear for all of that?
Yeah.
We've learned so much from things like those 30, 40-year studies. The Framingham Heart Health Study, the Women's Health Initiative. There's another one that with physicians and nurses. So there's so many things that we've learned from long-term trials, and to lose funding for those makes me a little nervous as a scientist.
I would agree there's a lot of point there. And the other thing that I've observed over the years, though, is when the study proves something out, how that evidence can get squashed.
Oh, without a doubt.
Which is, I have done crisis management. Yes, I've done crisis management for a lot of different companies when all of a sudden they proved something out and some other bigger player on the other side said, well, that funding for that is ending now. And it's like, well, wait a second. We know what this just proved. This drug needs to be dosed differently for diabetics or women versus the men that were in the clinical trial that all weighed 220 pounds or more. We're going to kill off these women on this heart medication, which I'm not going to go into because I really don't want to get brought into the lawsuit. But I was involved in it, from the crisis management perspective. So like the stuff that gets...
Yeah, but that's that's America.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure that's going to ever change. I mean, that's an unfortunate part of things. But it's like companies. I mean, you've worked with companies your whole life as well. I mean, one company buys a smaller company that has something that might compete with them, so they buy it, and then off it
Shove
goes.
it.
Away it
It's
goes.
shoved. Yep.
And look, that's the way we work at this point in time. But from a health point of view, I would like to believe that there's still some science that people can believe in, and that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you say it. Yeah, yeah. Because there are some good vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Not 32 of them before the child's 1 year old.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe not at each individual vaccine has to go, but maybe it's how we administer them. So we should be critical thinkers, and critical thinking has gone away. Really has gone away.
I personally believe we really saw that during COVID. I remember wanting to write a blog when when everyone was getting told we're getting locked down and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And I remember I wrote a blog called The Emperor Has No Clothes. And my husband said to me, "You realize you publish that? Our lives are all going to change one way or another." And I did not publish it. And I admire the people who did speak up. And then I probably, a year and a half, 18 months later, I started to be more vocal because I thought there are so many things happening right now that if during my 27 years of reviewing clinical trials, if I did any of this crap, I'd be in jail. So it's like so many things flipped in the other direction. And I'm, of what could be discussed or what couldn't be discussed. I mean, you can take something like ivermectin, which one day I have no idea if it's in or if it's out or if it's just for animals or if it's not for animals. But why can't we all read it? Why can't we all read it and make a decision for ourselves? It's the suppression that drives me freaking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, information should not be suppressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big believer, and I do this with patients all day long, is I'll give them the information. You make whatever decision you want, but here's the information. And you make your own decision. I mean, you want my advice? I'll tell you my advice is, but here's the information. At the end of the day, it's your life, and you have to make that decision. So I think the same holds true for so many different things. During COVID, one can argue that it was a worldwide health crisis, and none of us knew what we were doing. The science was brand new. You make mistakes along the way in situations like that. And it's only when you could look back and say, "Oh yeah, that was wrong. That was wrong. That was wrong. Maybe that was right." It's a funny thing.
It was more the comical nature of things. Like, okay, so you can walk into a restaurant and at 6 feet, you have to wear a mask. But the minute you go to the 3-foot level, you can take the mask off. I'm like, you're kidding me. I mean, I know a principal of a school who had to have kindergarteners, stay. First, it was 6 feet away from each other. Then it was 3 feet. Like, it's an impricality. You can't keep kindergarteners from not climbing on top of each other.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But, sometimes, the way I look at it, especially with the restaurant thing, do you think some of these rules were made so that businesses could stay in business, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't necessarily...
Even though it was crushing them financially.
Of course.
The amount of...
But, I mean, if you think about it, if a virus is floating around in the air, whether you're here or here, doesn't really matter because you can either breathe it in or not, right? One way or another, you're either going to breathe it in and your body will fight it off, or you're not going to breathe it in because it somehow flew over your head or whatever. But I think a lot of times we had to make adjustments. And again, it's the adjustments that we had to make throughout that crazy 5 years just to satisfy so many different special interests.
Right.
And to keep people working and to keep people floating and to keep people alive. And it's a messy time, and I hope I never live through another one like that again.
I refuse.
That's for sure.
I refuse. I'm not going through it again. I don't know what I'll do, but it's an official statement right now. My life will not change like that for 5 years again.
Nope.
When you try to keep track of things that happen in your life and you see someone like, and it's like, gee, when was the last time I saw you? It's, about a year ago. And then it's like, no.
No, it's that blur. It's that 5-year blur.
Yeah.
Like when your producer asked me when I was in this building last, I always forget about those COVID years because I try to ignore them.
Exactly.
I want those years back. But anyway, yeah, it is what it is. It happened and it's over, thank gosh. And let's move on from
What
that.
is something that you think if I'm watching this episode and I want to start to step my life into the most healthy direction I possibly can? We talked about exercise. We talked about some of the things we can eat. Are we eating more vegetables, more protein? Is there a balance you think people should aim for? Or is it, again, very personalized in some
I
way?
think it's very personalized because you have, as we started the conversation, you've got it. Any diet you choose, as long as you stick to it, is going to be a good one, right? You're going to be healthy. You're going to live longer, have less strokes, all of it, proven scientifically. So, what I would say to that is really be honest with yourself. Just be honest with yourself. Ask yourself hard questions and be honest with yourself. Can I give up X? Can I add Y? And can I do it? Because, those New Year's resolutions, right? I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop eating. Well, yeah, that'll last for about a day, right? You can't put too much burden on yourself. People have to be kind to themselves. And I think a lot of us forget to do that, is that we have to give each other grace and we have to give ourselves grace. And being healthy is part of giving yourself grace. And no matter when you start on this health journey, whatever it may be, you're going to slip, you're going to fall. Just know, as long as those slips and falls get further and further apart, you're on the right path.
That is great advice. I want to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
You've written a lot of books.
I have.
If we were going to tell the audience which one they should start with, which would be the book you would recommend for people to start reading, to start to grasp your breadth of knowledge?
I think I would recommend the Hamptons diet.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because it talks all about oils and fat. It talks really about the food supply, about oils. And it was my best-selling book, so it's written very easily for everyone to understand. It's got great recipes in it.
Yes.
So it really
And you have the subsequent recipe book as well.
Yes. And I have a recipe
I've
book
got
that
them
goes along
both in
with
my
it.
kitchen.
So it goes, I think that would be the place to start. I mean, I have a lot of other books that are just about, if you have this, and which supplement do you want to take? I mean, there's those types of books too. But again, I like that to be more individualized. So those are sort of, I don't know, those are good books, but they're not. I would start with something that gives you a little bit more understanding and comprehension of the whole.
And you have a newsletter too.
I do.
Right? Can
I
anyone
do.
sign up for that
Yep,
newsletter?
it's free.
Okay, because I'm going to make sure the links to that newsletter are below
Great.
this
Good.
podcast.
Yeah, it's free. Yeah, sign up. You'll get a newsletter 4 days a week that I write. Yes. Yes, it's a lot, but I do it.
Now, is your office is still here in New York City, so people can book time with you.
Yep, it's still here in the city.
Get some really good wake-up call personal information.
And it's not just about diet. Like, we could have literally talked about any topic.
Yeah. Oh, and we have talked about so many topics over the years.
Yeah, we have. So I don't, but I think what people don't, I hope people are beginning to understand is, what your grandmother told you was right. You are what you eat. So, that is the cornerstone. That is my bedrock of health. You are what you eat. And then everything else gets built on top of that. So, yeah.
Oh, this time went too fast, but what a closing statement. You are what you eat. Thank you, Dr. Fred Pescatore, for a great, great conversation.
Well,
as
thank you,
always.
Diane, for having me. It's been great fun.
Everybody, there is going to be lots of good information that you can find below this podcast, so you can follow Dr. Fred Pescatore. You can get in touch with him. You can grab his books. All the links will be below. I highly recommend you share this podcast and subscribe to watch future ones. And this is one, there was so much information, I'd probably watch it 2 or 3 times if I was you. I'm probably going to, because I really enjoyed everything you had to say, and I like to have it sink in. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Pescatore. What a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Hit subscribe and share this episode with your friends. And even better, play it while you're at the gym working out. Exercise. That was what Dr. Fred recommended, on top of being good at choosing what you eat.